Hello, and welcome to the Florida Caniac Perspective. I am the Florida Caniac. In today's episode, I'm going to recap the first half of the season, go over a little bit over the All-Star festivities, and answer some of your questions you guys had on Facebook and Twitter. However, before we get into the episode, I want to recap when the Florida Caniac will next be on scene where you can meet and greet. The first game will be Friday, February 15th, where Carolina takes on the Edmonton Oilers. And I'll be having my nephew with me on that game. Right after that, I will be seeing them the very next day in the very same section I'll be sitting in versus the Dallas Stars. Following that up, I will be heading back home all the way until March 2nd, where Carolina visits good old Sunrise, Florida to take on the Florida Panthers. Now, with the first half of the season being over, and prior to all that, I did see on Facebook Live that Carolina would take the third spot in the Metropolitan Division, just above the wild card positions. And I also said that Pittsburgh and Washington weren't going to be that heavily favored in the division at all, and so far that's kind of starting to hold up a little bit. However, recapping the Hurricanes' first half of the season where they went 4 games over 500 prior to the All-Star break, and then the other day's game versus the Golden Knights where they actually played very, very well, and Carolina stands at 25 wins, 20 losses, 6 overtime losses, with a home record of 14 wins versus their away record of 11 wins, just being a shad under 500. However, Carolina still holds a good spot getting a playoff position, but they're still on the outside looking in. Looking at this, seeing everything I am seeing here, I am going to have to give Carolina a grade of this starting season of a C-. Now, I know what you're thinking. C-? Why would you give them a C-? They're actually doing not too bad. Well, here's the thing, everybody. I expected this team, based on the hype, based on some of the transactions we saw earlier in this season, and based on even NHL media people saying that Carolina was actually going to make a really, really good run for the playoff spot, with only maybe less than 10% of people I've read about and listened to stating that they're going to be on the outside looking in. So yes, there was very fair assessment that there could be high hopes for this team going into the season, making a good run for the playoffs, and that they are doing. But I expected them to be in that playoff spot already. That's my point. I expected to be there. So, yes, did they have that hot start at 4-0-1? Absolutely, they really did. Did they get a little tumble down the regular season down this time? Yes, they did. Did they rise themselves back up? Now they have. And there was a few contributions that have helped out with that. And let's go over that. Well, this season started a little rocky because, well, got to have a GM in place that really knows what he's doing. Enter Don Waddell, the guy who turned the Atlanta Thrashers well into the Atlanta Thrashers, and now they're the Winnipeg Jets. Anyway, but he did get into a good job here by having himself the number 2 overall pick, getting Andrei Svechnikov. Smartest move he could do, he's the best player available. But that wasn't the splash that really started seeing the Waddell trend happen. He made a bigger splash with Calgary, which happened to be the team Bill Peters went to go grab 2 great players, Michael Furlan and Dougie Hamilton, who really doesn't have a real home. He's been kind of floating around the NHL carousel, you would say. However, it costed Carolina Elias Lindholm and upcoming defenseman Noah Hannafin. We wish them well, sort of. However, after that, things have started going really well during the preseason. But the man who was trying to get his starting job back, Scott Darling, really wasn't playing so darling, as you can see, goes on to get injured, and in comes picking up off waivers Curtis McElhinney from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nice little gift in disguise. I even had disagreements on him sticking around for as long as he has. He has even proved me wrong. However, now we have this 3-goalie carousel. But Scott Darling went back to his old darling ways, pun intended, and he gets shipped off to the AHL, to the Charlotte Checkers, where, let's face it, it's not looking too good for him. So it's a McElhinney-Mrazek 1-2 punch throughout the entire season, with a slight edge to Mrazek because, hey, he's got the contract. Simple enough, right? Not so much. Teams started taking a spiral, and then now we're seeing some waivers happen. Valentin Zykov gets cleaned off waivers by another team. Yeah, what do you know? And, of course, the big splash of this regular season for Carolina happened not too long ago with the acquisition of Niederreiter but it costed a player in our side as well, which was Victor Rask. You can kind of argue the fact that Carolina won that trade, don't you think? After all that fun first half of the NHL season, it was time for the NHL All-Star Game in San Jose, California, where our very own Sebastian Aho was a really good star for that show and helped the Metropolitan Division win the All-Star festivities. However, even though he did not win the passer competition, wherever the heck that thing is called, he had a really good showing. He also got himself 2 goals and 2 assists, I believe, in the game as well. Overall, I enjoyed seeing the All-Star Game, and I really, really enjoyed those jerseys, and I'm still debating if I should get one or not. And now it's time to get to some of your questions. There was 2 questions that were submitted to me that really, really caught my attention. The first one is from Joe Burke. Joe asks, what do you think causes such inconsistent play by the Canes? Very good question, and you know what? I'm going to answer it by saying a few different things, honestly. One of the things I feel is inconsistency is maybe the practices or maybe just sometimes the schedule itself. Now, not every team plays consistent ways. I mean, I could probably name maybe a handful of teams that actually do play consistent. Tampa Bay and Nashville being the 2 top ones. And I'm going to go ahead and say Calgary as well. So you got a very young team. That's part of the deal as well. They're not used to a consistently long 82-game season like some of these teams have with players that can do that. You can also blame some of the practices. There's not a consistent practice schedule as well. So it's really hard to bring a flow into the game. And you have a new head coach in this team in Rob Brindamore, who's kind of bringing his own flair into the system as well and trying to bring that style of gameplay. Lately, in the past few games, I will say I have been seeing that consistency, as my opinion. But I will agree with your question regarding that inconsistency, where earlier in the middle of the season, you haven't really seen a whole lot of that, because I would say maybe the system is still trying to implement itself into the way of the season. So hopefully that answers your question. There's a few other factors as well. I would also say maybe some goaltending inconsistencies as well, because they haven't had a true number 1 player in net as well. And there's still that battle going on. You got a lot of different small little factors that are also off ice that could cause some inconsistencies as well. And again, these are just my opinions saying that. So hopefully, Joe, that answers your question. Now to the next question, hold up. And this is live on YouTube. The next question comes from John Gallagher. And he writes, what are the pros and cons of trading Ferland? And you know what? And I'm with you on this one. There has been a lot of rumors, both the media and within the Canes Facebook group pages, Twitter, all over, you name it. There's a rumor out there that Michael Ferland is on the trading block along with Dougie Hamilton. So I will say the cons first of Michael Ferland being dealt out. The con would be you lose a little bit of grit that this team has carried over with these acquisitions that of Michael Ferland and Dougie Hamilton. One half of that kind of goes away. However, the pro to this whole deal is they've been kind of playing pretty well without him already, because Ferland's been injured with the post-concussion stuff and everything going on. The Canes have been rolling pretty good without Ferland on the ice. So it's not like they're really going to lose a whole lot of play going on that they currently are going with the team. There is going to be, I believe, some of that toughness that could go away, but it's being made up by Dougie Hamilton, Jordan Martinhook, who recently got himself a 2-year extension. So good to see that as well. So there is some, I can see the pros and cons of it, but those would be my big main pros and cons on that. I'd like to thank everybody for bringing those questions up to me. And if you guys have any questions, definitely go on my Facebook page. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that little bell after subscribe to go ahead and get updates on when the new videos come around. I really appreciate all the support going on out there. Again, I am hoping to get more episodes out there soon. And thank you all for watching this episode of the Florida Caniac Perspective. And as always, go Canes.